I'm going to talk to you about hedge trimmers and small mixing desks like this one, little Mickey Mouse thing here. And therefore, pretty obviously, I'm talking about market surveys. First things first, you can put that clipboard down because we're not going to be running around with a clipboard anytime soon. Your first task, if you're doing a market survey, your first task is to find out the size of the market. This is very important. You know, maybe there is no market to size. Maybe your brand new fancy idea completely doesn't have a market. So you need to know the actual size of the market. And you can do that by simply phoning up trade magazines and asking them, or by talking to trade bodies. But beware when you're talking to trade bodies, because they tend to exaggerate to make their sector of the market more important than it really is. If you, for example, talk to the trade body for creative industries in Britain, they immediately blow. I mean, everything is a creative industry. Aardvark wrangling is a creative industry and incredibly important to the British economy, apparently. If you can't find the size of the market that easily, simply by Googling it or talking to a trade mag or talking to a trade body and talk to everybody, absolutely everybody, somebody out there knows, then you can triangulate the size of the market simply by looking at certain market leaders and saying, well, they've got 5% of the market and they account for £10 million turnover. They've got 10% of the market and they've got 20 million. Well, then it's $200 million, pound, whatever market. And you can work it out from there. Now we come to the structure of the market. It's no good just saying, oh, the market is so and so big. You need to know the structure. And the structure of most markets, if not all markets, is a pyramid. There's a small sector at the top that account for the luxury end of the market, the top of the market. And then there's the big middle market, and then as a sort of a mass market underneath of small, cheap, whatever things. I was talking about mixing desks. Well, top brand today is a Blackpool company for really top-line mixing desk where you pay the equivalent of a middle-priced family home for a desk. The top brand is a company called AMS Neve, and they have a turnover of about 6 million. The number 2 brand after them, they have a turnover of about 150 million. So a huge difference in turnover. And even the top brand now has just released a cheaper version that instead of costing £250,000 costs £25,000. So you see, they're trying to get a piece of that much, much bigger pie. And below them are little things like this. So I'll put that to one side. And before I go any further, I'm going to introduce you to a book. The Market Research Toolbox, very dry read, but actually very useful. Now comes a sad tale of a failed business. And that's where we come to hedge trimmers, amongst other things. A lot of people, I mentioned it right from the word go, a lot of people think that a market survey consists of running around with a clipboard and asking people questions. And this is exactly what a woman with a gardening shop in a small market town did. She went around with her clipboard saying, would you buy in my gardening shop if I opened a gardening shop here on the high street? And 80% of those people who actually had a garden and were local said yes. And here's the sad part. They were lying. They were being nice to her. They were being polite. She got the sympathy vote, but she didn't get the money, and her gardening shop failed. Would you if, this is a loaded question, would you if you ask open questions? Where did you buy such and such? What did you buy? Where did you spend your money? And you'll discover that they spend their money in places like Lidl's and Aldi and Tesco and Sainsbury's and anywhere, it's an impulse buy. Or they go to the big gardening centre where they're keen gardeners and they've got a big choice. One of my favourite questions in any survey, if you phone up, is to ask, if money were no object, what would you buy? What thing would you buy? And, the home recording enthusiast says, oh, I'd love to have an Allen and Heath, or I'd love to have a Soundcraft. The studio owner says, oh, I'd love to have an AMS Neve 88R, and so on. And the other interesting question to ask is there a secret weapon? Something really cheap. I don't have one here right now, but we've got loads of them. A microphone, for example, that's really cheap and you can always use in just about any situation. Some cheap thing. And any sound engineer would say, oh, yeah, well, there's the SM58 from Shure, £100, $120, something like that. And everybody uses them. So loaded questions. And I'll give you a typical loaded question. I got one of these things. I was on YouTube and they ask you, oh, can you recognise these brands? Just before you go, yeah, all right then. And they asked me, just click on the brands you recognise. And there was Microsoft, Apple, Google, Adobe, Zoom, SRAM, and SRAM? SRAM? What? Who's? I'd never heard of SRAM. Who's SRAM? And of course, I dug a bit and discovered that was commissioned probably by an ad agency who'd just done some sort of work for SRAM, whoever they are, and they wanted to up their profile, so they put them in there. So that is a leading question. It's completely useless. It's pointless. If somebody gives you a list of brands and ask, or something like that, choose one of these, leave them open-ended. I know that takes more time. That's why you get these click-on multi-choice things, because they're cheap and easy to do. But it's not the right way to do it. Now, I'm going to come to this. Hedge trimmer. And that is the actual hedge trimmer. That hedge trimmer. The woman with the gardening shop, she opened her shop and she bought a selection of tools, including this, a cordless hedge trimmer. So for that, with a charger and a small battery, she could sell them, if she sold the hedge trimmer for £80 and got a £10 profit on all the other things, she could sell them for about £160. The wholesale price was 50, I think, something like that. And yeah, the charger was 30, the wholesale price was 50. Now, that hedge trimmer that she bought 5, was grey. This is the exact same hedge trimmer. But look, what it says on the side. Parkside. That's the Lidl's own house brand. Exactly the same hedge trimmer from Lidl's. She didn't know because she didn't survey the market properly. She had no idea. Now, what did Lidl's charge for that? Well, they didn't charge £100 or even 80. They charged £25. And they charged £20 for the small battery with the charger. So she was going to charge 3.5 times as much as Lidl's. And of course, just when she opened, Lidl's brought that out and killed off. She had 5 hedge trimmers she couldn't sell because everybody saw that although it might have a different colour, it was exactly the same hedge trimmer. Now, when you do your market survey, watch out for trends. And for that, I'm going to tell you a story. I did a market survey for a very, very large Japanese broadcast equipment manufacturer a long time ago, late 90s. And I did it actually directly for their broadcast division in Germany. And they and I were both, I asked 100 post-production facilities, everybody from the BBC to ARD and ZDF and RAI in Rome and everywhere else. I asked them what they're going to buy, what they're going to... And, of course, all these big companies stuck with the safe choice, and most of them said Sony. Some might then say Canon and a few other things, but switchers and so on would be something from the established brands. Sony in particular, or as somebody at the BBC said, nobody ever lost their job by buying a Sony. All right, but the small ones, the trendsetters, they were going in for non-linear editors. Sony had decided that digital tape was the way to go and that computers would never be big enough, strong enough, powerful enough to actually edit video in standard definition or even in high definition, which was just about to break at that time. They got it completely wrong. When I presented my stuff, they had the Japanese people there as well, who had made this decision up front that it was digital tape was the way to go. I don't think I've ever seen a Japanese person so angry that they actually levitate, but I could swear there was air between the soles of his shoes and the ground. But the point being that your small trendsetter may be where the market is heading and not the big one who accounts for 9/10 of the market in purchasing power. Nowadays, of course, everybody uses computers for editing, even film, which gets filmed at 6K RAW. I'm using one such camera right now. So just remember the key points and remember the book, and I'll see you the next time round for your company structure and your point of sale. That's another one coming up. Watch out for that. See you then.